Welcome to the Environment Story video episode 1. It is the series where we bring out the best of the best leaders to inspire and to motivate you to take the action with purpose. I am your host Riya Shah, Functional Safety Manager at Mahindra Electric. I am also a writer by passion and interviewer by profession. To realize your true potential in sustainable mobility, today we have invited our hero, Dr. R.Mahadevan, who is director at Indian Pistons. He has been part of Indian Pistons since 1967. A graduate of IIT Madras, he was second president of SAEINDIA. With years of experience, we are sure he will benefit you in your journey. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. Welcome, Dr. Mahadevan. It is an honor to be having you on our first episode. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Riya.
So, my first question to you is that how did you start with Indian Pistons and what has really kept you for so long at this prestigious company?
Good. First of all, let me greet SAEINDIA on its silver jubilee year. Now, it's a milestone that's worth treasuring. And a lot of things have happened during these 2.5 decades, which makes SAEINDIA a professional society of great stature as it is today. I also want to thank SAEINDIA for having taken the initiative to interview some of the past presidents and people who have been associated with SAEINDIA for a long time, and put it on record so that future members may look at it with interest and some may even benefit. Thank you for that. Now you asked me about my journey at India Pistons. So I have to recollect what happened over 5 decades ago. But it's pleasant to recall some of the past. Because the past sometimes tells you guidelines for the future. So it's always better to look at the past and remember it once in a while. So I'm now going back to 1967. I had completed my B.Tech in Mechanical Engineering from IIT Madras. Then I did my Masters at IIT Kharagpur in Production Science and Technology. In between, I had a few months of working at Hindustan Steel in Rourkela. But after finishing my Masters, I was looking for a job, as everybody does. And in my mind, I had somehow an inclination to join private industry and not go into a routine government job. Though I had written the examination for railway service, my mind was not in that. So when I was looking at options in the private industry, I had attended a couple of interviews, one with Tata Steel in Jamshedpur and one with BHEL in Trichy. Jamshedpur gave me an offer on the spot. BHEL Trichy was yet to give me the letter. Around that time, I saw this advertisement from Indian Pistons asking for management trainees. The other positions were graduate engineers. Somehow, I thought that management trainee sounds a bit more, superior to graduate engineer, because graduate engineer is run of the mill. So you run for 2 years or 3 years as a graduate engineer trainee before you are confirmed. Whereas management trainee sounded a bit more charming, So I decided, okay, let me apply for it. And I did that. And before I did that, I looked up India Pistons, and it had a very good name in the market for many things for which they took the lead. So I said, okay, let me join them. And I got the offer. With a royal salary of 401 rupees per month. It is you might have noticed in our tradition, if you want to gift somebody, you don't gift him 1,000 rupees, you gift him 1,001 rupees. The hope is that that extra one is an indication of your desire that it must grow manifold. That is the hope behind giving that extra 1 rupee. So they had actually followed that system and offered me 401 rupees. And I thought, okay, this seems to be a good company to join, so let me join. That was the story behind my joining India Systems and giving up the other offers. Okay. So this was in April 1967. So it's about 53 years ago. And there was Mr. C.K. Prahlad, who later became a management guru. He was a professor at Ahmedabad IIM and then became a professor in Harvard Business School, and he's known for many great initiatives for the Indian economy, like the pyramid structure of the economy, bottom of the pyramid, things like that. So he was working at India Systems and he took charge of the management trainings. He was supposed to be the executive in charge of managerial training. So I was with him for a couple of years. Then I went to UK for specializing in the piston assembly technology. I was there for a year and came back. Now, how is it that I stuck with this company for so long? That is another story. They did not have a good reason to kick me out, and I didn't have a good reason actually to quit. Because every time I thought of leaving, because I was getting frustrated, something would happen. And that will pull me back, saying, okay, give it another try. So I just continued with the company. For instance, when I came back from UK, I was for a year floating around, really not having any challenge in the company. Then, with the fanfare, the company started an R&D department. More or less the first time in the automotive component industry, at least in that part of the country, this was a company that started an independent department where the head directly reports to the managing director. And I was asked to set it up, grow it, and handle that. So that gave me a challenge. I continued. And some years later, when I was getting a bit frustrated, I registered for PhD, external PhD with IIT Madras. And the company supported me fully. In the sense, they took care of all my expenses. They took care of also providing a guide from within, and they made sure the time that is needed for doing that research is available to me. So that kept me going. And after some time, I got involved in several professional societies, like the Institution of Automobile Engineers, then Institution of Production Engineers, Institution of Standards Engineers, like that. Many of these societies, I was not just a member. I was either a secretary or a vice president or some task force head or something like that. So, and all this required that I need to spend some time towards that, and that was supported by the company. So, when I became later actively involved in SAE, the company fully supported my involvement with SAE activities, including having my secretary run also some of the SAEINDIA affairs for my own office. So, that is actually the reason. The ecosystem that the company provides for a person not only to contribute to the company, but also professionally develop himself, and in turn the company benefits also. So that was the outlook. For instance, in supporting people associate themselves with professional activities. The managing director, Mr. M.K. Raju, was himself the president of All India AIMA, All India Management Association. He was the president. And the person who was in charge of industrial relations was the president of the Personal Management Society. and I was involved deeply with the Institute for Automobile Engineers and Technical side. And there was a guy in the company who was in charge of the Indian Standards Institute. He was the vice president of the standards. So, I mean, like that, the company really thought that an employee's professional development also will contribute towards the company becoming a better company than before. So this is actually the background for my sticking on to the company. So as I said in the beginning, they couldn't find a good enough reason to kick me out. I didn't find a good enough reason to leave. So the association continued so long that even after retirement, I still serve on the board, of course, and I still advise them on technology matters, the group itself. So they tend to keep the association live. That's the background.
Thank you very much for sharing this wonderful story. I must tell you are a great storyteller, and what I take out from your journey is that when you take care of an employee, they will take care and stick around in the company. And what other part I have noticed is you had some great role models within the company to look up to. You mentioned about the management guru, you mentioned about a lot of your other peers and colleagues who were part of the professional societies, who led professional societies just like you. So definitely having the role models around is very important. Speaking of the role model role, I was thinking if you could share that since you have been the president of SAE India in the past, what changes do you see now versus what SAE India was back then? How its journey has been like? What challenges have we observed? And if you could share some interesting moments from your time as a president.
Yes, it's a good question. You see, the early years of any institution is a question of survival. I mean, you need to have a foundation, and then only you can grow. If you don't have a foundation, you cannot grow. It will all fall down. So we need to create that foundation and make sure that we have some minimal infrastructure that we can use for serving the members. And at the same time, the members expect something from the society. And the society must have enough infrastructure, people and strength to meet that expectation. And then we have the responsibility of growing in numbers. The membership, if it doesn't grow, it's not a growing society, because the SAE, in comparison to other societies, is a completely member-driven society. Every member has got a say in the running of the society. Thirdly, we were on knife edge as far as economics goes. We didn't have big resources of income. So we need to create some kind of sustainable activity that will bring in some money so that you can service the membership. And we had a disproportionately big student members compared to paying members. Student members pay hardly anything, whereas the service that we give to the student society is very high in terms of cost. So that has to be supported by the regular members. And the regular membership was not growing at the rate that we would like it to grow. And then we do not have corporate membership. So it's not as if I can go to Mahindra or Ashok or Tata Motors and tell them, you become a member and pay me a lot of rupees. No, because SAE does not have it as a part of their policy. They do not have the system of enrolling corporate members. So we have to create some kind of activity that will sustain the society. So the early years, I must now recall that the first president, who is unfortunately no more, was Dr. Krishna Kumar. who was the technical director at Maruti, and I took over from him. And it was a bit of a struggle, let me say. You have to find a place to work from, and that place you need to pay a rent, for which you need to collect some money, and where does it come from? So all these are part and parcel of the problems. And we have to keep SAE International on our side. SAE International was a great supporter of SAE India. So we need to work with them and make sure that we are in line with their policies and their methodology of operations, and get enough support from them, and at the same time make sure that our membership grows and our income also grows, to make sure that we are able to. It's a chicken and egg situation. Do you run after the members first, or do you first give service to them and then make sure that you attract more number of people? So that was the sort of dilemma. During that time, balancing all this was a bit of a struggle. All of them, all the people who were working with me were all volunteers. We had hardly 2 or 3 people in the office who were actually paid people, staff. Other than that, everybody else took his time and own money for running the society. Then we hit the data of running an international mobility conference. We started. The first one was in Delhi, and then the second one in Chennai, and again Delhi. It was to alternate between these 2 places every 2 years. And for the first time, actually, we started the Congress and Exposition. The Exposition provided a place where the corporates can actually display whatever they have developed. And because they had a captive audience of all the R&D people who come for the Congress, that provided an incentive for them to display their products and processes and things like that. So, and for which we can charge a fee. That became a good revenue stream, and that has carried on. But that was all, those days, formative years. So this is what comes to my mind as the years when we have to make sure that there is a foundation on which SAE can grow.
Thank you very much for sharing those days of struggle. I totally understand there were multiple problems you were handling, but without problems you really don't have opportunities. And I'm so glad that you and the other volunteers made it through, were passed through that struggle, found the solutions to handle those, and now it's a flourishing society with lots of members and lots of events in and out. Thank you again for sharing it. My next question to you is related back to your company, India Piston. I wanted to know your view that how is the company contributing to the sustainable mobility ecosystem of India as per you?
Okay. I would answer that in 3 slots. The first slot is in terms of product technology. We have an active R&D. I was actually heading that, and as a part of the infrastructure that we had a series of test benches, which no other auto component company at that time had put in. So our management was good enough to say, okay, spend the money. If you are going to get some technology benefit out of that, we must invest first. So we had a good R&D setup, and with that we have developed in surface engineering coatings on the peripheral coatings, and patented many of them. And that was with the view of increasing the durability, reducing the friction, and reducing the weight. These were the 3 targets, 3 goals. And so by internal R&D work, we did this, and all this was actually incorporated in all the products that we were actually selling to OEMs and to the market. We were actually one of the very first companies that was certified by Department of Science and Technology as a certified R&D unit. And at one time we had employed people who regularly wrote papers to SAE every year. In fact, that was one of the incentives we gave to our engineers, that look, if you do some work publishing in SAE, then you publish 2 papers, I will give you the chance of going to Kobe Hall in Detroit and presenting your paper. So that is the kind of incentive. So I myself used to go almost every year to the Congress and Exposition in Detroit, sometimes to present papers, sometimes to just discuss and things like that. So that is one part, that is the product technology part. As a factory, we decided that in order to be sustainable, we must use renewable energy. Even though we had our own generating systems which ran on diesels, and we were one of the big consumers from the electricity board because we have a big foundry, we decided that we will invest in wind power and use wind power for most of our factory requirements. So which meant we were actually supporting renewable energy. Thirdly, as a group of factories, the business belongs to a group called Amalgamations Group, and the factories were located in Sembian, which is an estate, and the estate is a very green estate. It has a lot of trees, couple of beautiful ponds, maintained in such a fashion that you will see articles in the local newspaper about the migratory birds that every year keep coming to that estate. In spite of the fact there are so many factories there, they come and settle down near the ponds. And ornithologists, they used to, bird watchers, they used to come there during the season, September, October, November, and watch those birds. So we used to take pride in the fact we not only have a very active factory site, but we also have an environmentally friendly and thriving campus. So that is the contribution from our company.
Great. It's so good to know that from long back you have been using and preferring the renewable energy and also ensuring that the environment around you is friendly for flora and fauna to thrive, as you mentioned. It's great to know. One question that comes to my mind, which is a bit personal, but I ask all the leaders, is what has been your biggest success and biggest failure? So those are 2 questions. If you can answer the biggest failure and the biggest success that you have had in your life so far.
Okay, let me take the failure first, because I believe everybody goes through some failures or the other. Not some. There could be many failures, and I always believe that the failures is actually a laboratory where you learn how to not repeat it and succeed the next time.
Correct.
So a person who succeeds is not a person who has never had a failure. A person who succeeds is a person who has had several failures before and ended up by eliminating those failures and finally achieving success. This is what I believe. So let me touch on the failure part of it. I always dreamt that SAE India should become in stature like SAE International and be the referral body for any mobility related policies of the government and any standards relating to automotive industry. SAE should be the body that should play a key role in formulating standards and in formulating policies relating to the automotive field. This was my dream. and we try to see whether we can get there. For instance, all of us know that SAE International standards are the most preferred standards in respect of automotive industry. Also, SAE International in the United States is consulted for policy related issues because they interact with the government regularly. For some reason, we did not succeed in that. We are not treated as a body that could be referred to either for formulation of standards or for shaping the policy of the government. We may be influencing because some of our members are also very close to the government policy makers. Like Dr. Goenka, for instance, he is close to, or Dr. Sumantran for that matter. They are close to also the government ministries that formulate these policies, but not as a body. SAE as a body is not the one that is consulted for either policy making or for standards making. This, I think, was the biggest failure. Okay, having said, there may be other failures, but you asked me the biggest failure, so I will only say one. And then you asked about the success. Okay, success in a society like this is not that of an individual. It's always that of a team. But since I happened to be the president at that time, so I am justified in saying that is a success of my team, I can say like that. And that was the International Mobility Congress and Exposition that we conducted in Chennai Trade Center. I think it was in October 2005 or something like that, because I was the president in 2004-2005 term. So we, for the first time, we decided that we will have a Congress similar in scale and similar in grandeur like what they do in Detroit. And also we decided that we will combine it with an exposition. Chennai Trade Center is a huge place. Before that, all our events were happening in a hall, and that used to be just presentation of papers. But this one was in a totally different scale. I had a separate team working on getting industries to support us in the exposition, and I was having another team that was working on getting the papers and doing all the technical paper evaluation. Every single paper that was presented was also getting an SAE number. That is something we negotiated with SAE International and got it incorporated. So it required a lot of planning, and it required a lot of hard work, sleepless nights, because I was also looking at the finances, how much we are going to spend and how much is going to come. So it always used to be, I used to be on edge almost every day for several days before that, and we needed to have a technical committee working on all those papers, reading through them, reviewing them, and it was not easy to organize because we were actually learning, and we were doing it for the first time, and I was keeping my fingers crossed and praying, because we had invited the central government minister to be the chief guest, and you know what it means. So we needed to be on our toes till the gentleman actually arrives. So all this only increased my blood pressure. But I had such a good team. But I remember now Mr. R.Mahadevan was handling the technical side, I think, at that time, and it went off so smoothly that after that, not only we ended up getting a lot of people telling us this is the way to go, but SAE International all credit for running a show is as good as what they do elsewhere. And that actually put us on their list of potential societies that can handle SAE International's congresses in future. That is how we got into this visitor also. I went to Barcelona after this to attend the Visita Congress, and there we became members of Visita. SAE became members of Visita, and I signed that agreement. And Visita was expecting a membership fee which was way above what we could ever afford. But I didn't bother. I just signed and became a member, came back, and then negotiated with them to give a very small fee and make us a member. So it gives you confidence once you are able to organize a big event like that. Thing goes well. It gives you a lot of confidence. You know? So that, I think, was the success of my team at that time. So in fact, thinking back, we gave me an opportunity to just think back about those days. Even now I feel happy that after all those difficult days, we pulled it off very well.
Great. Thank you, and I equally feel proud to be talking to you and talking about such a great event which was organized at the scale which is equivalent to an international level event. So kudos to you and your team for organizing such a great event, and thank you again for sharing it. But it was such a moment of pride for all of us, and kudos to you and your team for organizing this international level event. But the failure really hit me hard. So what I want to understand from you is how can we at SAE India reach that stage that government can take us as a standard and decide on policies based on our recommendations, our papers and so on. How can we get there?
What we need to do is consciously involve governmental people, who are in surface transport ministry, environment ministry, people who are concerned about mobility, surface transport, and surface transport. We must involve them in SAE activities. So that requires an effort. With that effort, we must get them involved in SAE activities, and we must have events that actually promotes government-industry interaction, and we provide a platform for them. We also call our members from the industry and our members from the government, because our members, in the sense, we must first make the members in SAE India, and then between the two teams we provide the platform for them to thrash out any differences that they have. And in that case, what will happen is that we will evolve some recommendations in which they themselves have played a part. That is in fact, SAE International uses that modus operandi for getting them accepted. I think we must do that consciously. Now what we are, I'm not sure, maybe in a small way, but I think we need to have focus with a special attention given to creating this interaction, and that will take us there. This is applicable both for standards, also for policy makers.
Thank you for sharing that model with us. I'm sure SAE India team will strive towards it. The last question that I have for you is, if you have any advices for young professionals in the automobile or automotive space who want to really realize their potential, what can they do as per you?
Firstly, it's a changing world. There's a lot of changes that are happening, and the pace in which change is happening is also very accelerating. So, but I want to tell the community, automotive engineering community, that mobility is here to stay. Mobility is a very important aspect of any economic development. It's the basis for good economic development, and that is not going to go away. The way that mobility is organized, the way it is fashioned, the way automobiles, conventional automobiles play a role, they may change. But the importance of mobility per se is not going to go away. So I will tell them that have faith in yourselves and have faith in mobility profession. This mobility profession is here to stay. After all, automobile engineers have been 120 years old, and it is still thriving. So it's one of the most important aspects of any economic development. So you are in a space which will continue to exist and grow and thrive. And so have faith in yourselves and have faith in the mobility profession. That is the first thing I would like to say. And the second thing I would like to say is you must be prepared to adapt and adopt. You must be willing to adapt any new idea. The thing that you have learned today may not be that relevant 5 years from now, but that's how life is. You must be prepared to adapt yourself for something that is relevant to that time. Similarly, adopt something that has happened else. If it is relevant to you, please adopt. Do not think that what you have learned, you have gained today, is going on forever. Not necessarily. You must have a willingness to adapt and adopt. This is the second advice that I would like to give. Just want to add one more little bit of advice, and that is, learning never stops. Irrespective of age, irrespective of area, irrespective of what you have learned, there is more to learn all the time. You must be having the curiosity of a child, and you must be having the willingness to learn. I am reminded of a story that was told by Swami Chinmayananda. He said that in an ashram there was a guru who was pretty old. He was past 70 and losing his eyesight. And he was running a school of about 20-30 boys. It was a single teacher. And evenings he used to have a small stick to find his way back from the school to his hut. The stick was needed because he was losing eyesight, and he will tap on his way and go. Occasionally some boys, while running back, they will bump into him, unsettling him, but he will pick up and then go. One day a boy came and gave him a small lamp that was lit, and he said, "Why don't you carry this when you go back to your hut?" And he said, "Look, I cannot see. I myself am half blind, and how is this going to help me?" And he said, "Sir, this is not for helping you. It is for helping others not to bump into you." So then he said, I have now learned a lesson in my life at this stage," he said. So just to illustrate that learning never stops. From where it comes and at what stage you get, it is still worth a lot of value. This is another thing that I would like today's engineers to remember, because I know some guys whom I meet, I interview some engineers, they think they know all that is to be known in the world. That is a very wrong attitude to have. This is my advice to the youngsters.
Awesome. Thank you. Such a wonderful way to end the interview. Thank you very much for all those advices and the stories and the insights. It was such a pleasure having you, sir. And any parting thing that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, there is one incident that sticks in my memory, which even today gives me pleasure as far as my association with SAE is concerned. Going back in time, 97 maybe, or maybe 98, I think, 97, 98. I was having the position of President of SAE Southern India section. And those days, SAE India was not born. Southern India section existed as a section of SAE International. And I was Vice President of SAE Southern India section. And there was another society called Institute of Automobile Engineers. This Institute of Automobile Engineers had about 800 and odd members. This was a purely Indian society, and I was Vice President of that also. And we were every day, every year, we were having visits from SAE international presidents, and that was a great event. We all always look forward to the presidential visit, and we take them to various places, open some college clubs, things like that. We used to entertain them. And we felt at the time that it would be a good foundation for SAEINDIA to start in India if Indian Institution of Automobile Engineers merged with SAE. Then in that case, the members of Institution of Automobile Engineers was about 800 and odd. SAE only had less than 100 people. SAE at that time in India had less than 100 people because it costed money. Membership money was quite high in dollars. So it had a small number, whereas Institute of Automobile Engineers had 800 and odd. So we thought it would be a good idea to merge the two, in which case the membership of SAE suddenly grows up by 800 compared to about 80 or so. So that would give a big boost in the arm, is what we thought. We were thinking about it, planning for it and all that. Finally, in 1998, we met in the Park Sheraton Hotel in Chennai in the presence of Claude Verbal, who was actually the SAE International President. He came, and we had the Institute of Automobile Engineers President, Dr. P.R. Jagadishan. I was there, and a few of us, we signed the historic merger of IAE and SAE that boosted the membership and provided enough incentive for SAE International to work relentlessly towards creating SAE India and supporting it. That was, in my opinion, even though it might be a small event looking back from today's stature of SAE India, but it provided the first little step. Then of course many steps came, but that was a little strong step that was taken, and I played a part in it, and I feel happy thinking back many years ago. Thank you, Ria, for this opportunity. I will meet again SAE India on its silver jubilee, and let me wish them many more glorious years and strong presence, and expand their activities into the automotive profession and contribute to the nation's economy. Thank you, Ria.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure having you.